Welcome to the Paysafe Podcast. I'm Crystal Wright, VP of PR at Paysafe. And today's guest is Nicole Carroll,
Hi, Crystal.
our Chief Growth Officer. I'm great. I'm so glad that you're sitting down and we're having this chat. So before we get into what you're doing at Paysafe and all this great stuff, tell me a little bit about your background, because I hear you grew up with a lot of siblings. Tell me a little bit about that and how that was.
Yeah, I did grow up with a lot of siblings, and it kind of sounds a little crazy in this day and age, but there's 6 kids in my family, and I am the last of 6. And so kind of a little bit about me is, I came from a very hardworking family. My dad was a small business owner and worked, 365 days a year, probably like 15, 16 hours a day. And my mom really looked after us and everything in the house. There wasn't kind of help in those days. And then when I was about 3 years old, I'm not sure if my mother decided she had it or she wanted to kind of like help out differently within the family, but she decided to go back to college. And she's a huge inspiration for me. She went to college. She got a 4.0, SUNY Stony Brook. She was president of her class, and she ended up being kind of a trailblazer in women's health. That's another podcast someday. But what it meant for me as a little kid, and I'm by the time I was in kindergarten, I was pretty much navigating my rides to and from school, figuring out what I was packing for lunch. And if there wasn't lunch, I would get on my bike and ride up to the little store and kind of like, make my lunch.
How old were you when you were doing all these great things?
I very independent. I mean, now, again, it sounds really harsh, but I didn't know any better. 5 years old, kind of letting myself in, getting my homework done, kind of doing everything that needed to get done. And then I probably was really annoying to my brothers and sisters because I was always trying to just get things done in the house. And I always had a plan for improving things. And probably by the time I was 10 or 11, I was landscaping my parents' garden, cleaning out their garage, redecorating my mother's Christmas tree.
Oh, wow, I love
kind
it.
of like a nonstop.
Yeah. So, that makes sense. So that's a nice segue into you talking about what you're doing at Paysafe, because I think you're doing that now. Chief Growth Officer, which you started planning for this job. It sounds like at 7 years old.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, pretty much. I was like, I'm gonna be at Paysafe.
That's right. So
I
I think you were seeing into the future, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
talk to me a little bit about. I mean, I know because I'm part of your team, and
Yep.
I'm so excited by that.
So excited to have you on the team.
Yeah,
My fellow Hoya.
That's right. And we both went to Georgetown. So, tell me a little bit explain to me your role and kind of, what you're focused on now as growth, right? We're in a great phase of our transformation.
We really are in a great phase of our transformation. So I joined about a year after Bruce. And, Bruce has spoken to you, and you're obviously very familiar with, he came in and it was really about establishing us as an operating company. We had been a collection kind of companies in a holding company model. So bringing us together as one Paysafe, and kind of on, he needed to stabilize the company and focus on client experience and I'm building out our sales team under Rob Gatto. And then, I came in and I unified kind of all of our product and our marketing and our merchant and our consumer business, because we have, two sides, of the payment, both consumer and the merchant acquiring side. And when I joined the business and kind of like brought everything kind of under one roof, it was funny. You and I were chatting about this. I had just recently finished, right before I joined Paysafe, thankfully, I had just finished a remodel under my house. And so again, I had my plans for what the house was going to look like. But it was interesting when they took everything back to the studs in my house and kind of, it was just, kind of like bare. I all of a sudden, kind of realized like what the potential could be for my home. And so when I got to Paysafe and we brought these, teams together, which are now the growth team, you started realizing how we could unlock the assets that we have. And so, we completed the unification at the end of last year, but this past year has been all all about kind of like re-envisioning and reestablishing our product team so we can accelerate our growth, improving our marketing team under Elisa, so we really can get to a data-driven marketing function that works in lockstep with our sales teams and with our product team.
It's amazing when you, like you said, we were all these separate business units, so we weren't necessarily talking to each other and seeing all the opportunity and efficiency. And then, like you said, with your analogy about the house renovation, I feel the same way, more about paint, layers and layers of paint. So when you strip, when you strip back all the old layers of paint and you can see the walls, you're able to see a new vision and a new opportunity.
Clarity.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think I'm excited to be about working under this new open environment because product and marketing are so intertwined, and there's so much opportunity when you see each other across the table, literally.
When you have that interlock, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, now let's talk a little bit. I know, obviously, Nicole has not worked at Paysafe for her whole career. You've worked at some really awesome, large, recognizable brands in financial services and payments, Visa, Discover, Citi, Ventures, Transys. So it goes on and on, really. Before I get to asking you about your time in London, I'm going to save that for the next question and talk, be a little more specific with you on that. Talk to me a little bit about your first job in payments that led to all these terrific opportunities.
Right. Well, I wish I could tell you that while I was doing all of this planning in my family's home and planning like throughout high school, like what GPA I was going to get, what college I was going to get, the idea that I planned that I was going to get into payments, it wasn't that way. So, I mentioned that I had a hardworking dad, a small business, but I had two of my siblings had gone into banking, and they seemed to be doing pretty well. They had nice cars, they had nice houses.
These are all good things.
And so at Georgetown, we had a great career center, and so my junior year I got an internship within payments, but then my senior year I applied for this role at Citi for a management associate development program, and it was a 2-year rotation through their consumer business, and you went through credit, finance, risk, collections, marketing, analytics, right? It was all these different parts, and the funny thing is I draw upon some of that learning even today. I don't want to say how many decades later, but several decades later, I draw upon some of that experience. But one of the things that really kind of got me hooked is the environment and the team that we were. And so that we were all, it was an exciting time in credit cards. Again, I'm dating myself, but it was the evolution from like a classic card and a gold card to co-branded, cash back, all these consumer, value products. And we were kind of felt like we were changing the world. We would work late and have dinner together. We were a real team kind of working toward, the same, same goal.
Yeah. And you're right. All these things are now, right? Co-branded cards, private label cards.
Yes.
I mean, it's like the card mania.
Yeah.
I mean, and
we
good.
were competing. We had a competitor too.
Yeah.
And we were competing, and we were like, trying to beat them out. So we were all working kind of toward the same goal.
Yeah, and I think a key for you too, it sounds like that first job, you were exposed to so many aspects of the business, and you and I were talking about this earlier. I think it's important, no matter what role you have in the company, that you really make it your business to know the other parts of the business, because it's only going to make me a better marketer, a better public relations professional. It's only going to make somebody in accounting a better accountant or better finance person. So, and I see that in your vision, your daily work at Paysafe. I can see how that early career, exposure, that job really set the foundation for you.
It really
your
did.
Style.
Yeah, it really did. I mean, it gave you, like, when you're 22, 23 years old, and you're getting exposed to kind of all of the things that make the business, and it makes you realize that you have to draw upon kind of what is happening in risk when you are, building out a marketing plan, or the impact that it's going to have. And I think like that's one of the key things that I talk about when we do these mentorship kind of programs is you have to put the hard work in and do the studying and really understand the business that you're playing in. I mean, it's like, again, back to the sports analogy is you have to understand the game in order to be able to play the game.
That's true.
No matter what position you play on the field.
Yeah. I think you and I talked a little bit about this earlier. If your business is playing baseball, you don't want to come in and try to play soccer.
No, and I think I think that's like,
on.
yeah, that's it's funny that you say that. That's another like a bit of a nugget that I try to tell people is when you come into a company, really kind of figure out, what is the game, like how are you successful in the game that they're playing, and make sure that you're playing that game.
Well said. Now let's go. There's one part of your career early on where you were chief marketing officer for Transys, and you were in London. Oh my gosh, so exciting. I wish I had that opportunity earlier in my career. I'm not going to give it away, but it's something to do with the Oyster Card, folks. Think Oyster, not the one you're going to eat, the one you're going to do something with. Yes. Tell me a little bit about it, and also how you almost didn't take this job.
No, I didn't. And thankfully I did. And there's so much to draw upon kind of with Oyster Card. Oyster Card now, 125 million users, an iconic, London brand, one of the most successful, if not the most successful transit smart cards. But I had moved over to London and again, took a job in the payments industry. I was selling card processing, and a massive contract had been outsourced to the private sector. London at the time, the tube was not the way it is now. It was very, very underfunded. And one of the key reasons is that people could just walk on and off the tube. There wasn't a lot of gating except in, kind of the immediate central zone 1. And so people were not really, paying for their travel. And so there was a £2 billion initiative to replace all the gating and put, payments infrastructure, and it had been privatized. And so they were looking for someone that had card experience, consumer card experience, kind of really understood the payment space, and started interviewing for the job. And, it was nascent technology. And I found out that I was going to be on the road for about the first 3 months going over to Asia. And I was also, kind of a person who saw the news. It was on the cover of the Evening Standard 2-3 nights a week about what a failure it was going to be. Okay. And so lots of, because people were afraid of privatization, but there was this tremendous amount of pressure for the job. It was very, very exciting. And about that same time, I learned I was 5 weeks pregnant. Oh, wow. And so I called my mom and I said, "Hey, Mom, I'm being presented with this high profile, job, and I'm going to be able to travel the world and kind of launch something that, I think someday is going to be big, but I can't take it. I just found out that I'm pregnant. Like, there's no way I can make that work." And my mom, I still remember, she just like repeated back to me. She said, "What did you just say?" She said, you said it was a once in a lifetime experience.
Yeah, there you go.
Right, there you go. So you think another experience like that is going to come by?
Probably not.
She said, "No." She said, "Nicole, figure it out. This is what you spent your whole life figuring it out." And so, I did. I figured it out. And, lo and behold, it is now what is the, kind of the Oyster Card. And I had, and it was it's almost a bit surreal, kind of the time in London, because it was very high profile, at the time. And one of the, greatest kind of memories of my career was the opportunity to present the Oyster Card and to give an Oyster Card to Tony Blair at number 10.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
so
great.
it was wild.
I think I had a little crush on him when
I think we may all have.
when I was clearly a lot younger.
Yes.
Yeah, he was so charismatic. Yes. And was it everything that you
He is so charismatic.
Yeah.
He is. I mean, politicians are in general.
Yeah.
It's funny. That's what you as you meet successful politicians, you'll see like you become the most special person kind of in the room. But he really was incredibly charismatic. And I wish there were iPhones so I could have at the time have kind of that memory. But the staircase in Love Actually, that's actually what number 10 looks like. I got to walk down the stairs with Tony Blair, kind of he was going to leave for another meeting, and we kind of like walked out. It was a surreal experience.
Did you get his autograph?
Come
on now.
It wasn't kind of
I
like
the. I know, it probably wasn't the moment right then.
It wasn't
to do
the
it.
moment.
Yeah.
I wish I had.
Yeah, no, all good. So I guess as we wrap this up, what piece of advice, not advice, but I think a lot of us feel in life, we have missed opportunities, and I guess what's some ways like that you see the biggest things that people miss those opportunities? I don't want to say mistakes, but ways that we probably miss opportunities staring us right in the face that we don't take advantage of with our professional career.
Yeah, I think we've touched on a few of them, but the big one for me obviously is you have to be opportunistic. So you can do all the planning, but like if something comes, like I don't want to say it was opportunistic with Oyster Card because I had the experience that was needed, right? Yeah. And so, but if these things come, you have to figure out a way to make them work, right? And get creative and kind of solution and figure out, like, don't let them, pass by. And then, the other thing is hard work is the key to everything. And you and I, you have to talk about, like, you have to understand the business that you're in, but you have to study, you have to have the hard work, you have to put the effort in. It's just not, that person was so lucky they're CFO or CEO. No, that person has worked very hard to kind of get into that position. But one of the career advice that, I always give to people that feel like they're, kind of like stuck, where do you envision yourself in 2 years' time? And then like, write that resume, write that CV for where you want to be. And then what is the delta from where you are today to where you want to be? And start, just make a step or two in the direction. It might be doing an online course. It might be taking a course at the college, like a community college. It might be reaching out to someone that is not close in your network, but you would be surprised kind of their willingness to help you navigate and talk through things. So it's just like taking a step toward where you want to go, toward your vision.
And I always say you have to see it first and believe it inside yourself and see yourself where you want to be.
Yeah, that's it.
And then leverage those outside levers that can help you get there.
Yeah, and you know what? That makes me think of something I used to talk a lot about is like you have to be the CEO of your own career, right? So you have to be the CEO because if you're not the CEO of your career, you're working for someone else's career, right? So you have to do that planning.
Yeah, you do. Well, thank you. This has been great. Now, I close out each podcast with an out of the blue question.
Uh-oh.
I know, it's fun. Don't worry. We're going to table all the business
You might have
talk.
a different definition of fun, but we'll see.
Maybe. So when you were a teenager or, just let's say younger, it could be now. Did you have a celebrity crush?
Oh, did I have a celebrity crush? I had lots of celebrity
crushes.
Let's
talk about I still do.
Okay, so who's your celebrity crush?
Oh, I mean, I have a lot. I'm trying to think, like if I had to, I used to like the actor Magnum PI.
I did actually. There's a good
Tom Selleck.
So I have had the opportunity to meet Tom Selleck. That was
did
yes,
you really?
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
And I was convinced. I was like, if I could just meet him, maybe I'll marry him one day.
Yeah, I know because if he just
was
got
so
to
hot,
know you,
coming out of that car.
yes, and he did drive a red sports car as well, which is funny.
I don't know if it was. I forget what it was.
His was a Ferrari.
Yeah, that's right, Ferrari.
He drove. I think. When I met him, he was driving a different car.
I mean, he was a huge hottie.
Yeah.
But
so mine,
what's yours?
It's really.
I'm dating myself now,
I know,
guys.
and I'm going to date myself too. Well, not actually.
Maybe not.
Robert Downey Jr. Definitely.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. He's got that erudite, intellectual, kind of mystique going.
And he's actually an inspiration. He has reinvented himself. An inspiration for a lot of people. He's reinvented himself so many times. But definitely Robert Downey Jr.
I would say now Bradley Cooper.
Yeah, See, I told you.
I'm a little upset with him right now, but because he
went to Georgetown.
I know.
That's right.
But I'm upset with him because I think he has a significant other.
Yeah,
Darn it.
I know.
I just can't make it work.
You can't. We'll have to get on that.
Yeah, I know. You got to help me out on that. Yeah. Be my planner for that. Well, Nicole, this has been awesome. And I really thank you for joining.
Thank you.
And you know what I always say, guys? You have to stay tuned for the next episode because you never know who you're going to see.